There we go. Hi, everybody.
Hey,
Welcome back
hey,
to
hey.
Yo Yo. Hey, do you want to start this episode?
Uh-oh.
No?
Yeah, I think you do it. You do a great job. But
All right.
hey, everybody. This is
Hi.
this is Ida, aka the Chilling Therapist. You can find me at the Chilling Therapist on Instagram and on YouTube. And this is my gorgeous co-host, Em. You can find Emily Root Awakening at Emily's Root Awakening, and on YouTube it's at Emily's Root Awakening. Is there a dot in it? That was
Yeah,
so
Emily
fun.
got Root Awakening.
Oh yeah, lol. See, the first time I have to introduce her, I forgot the dot. But yeah, Emily dot Root Awakening. How did I go?
Good. That was great. We like to switch it up around.
Exactly. Oh, and let me put this part, because I was like, oh, Em will be like, yeah, Ida is a therapist and a life coach and blah 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 and all that jazz. But yeah, I am what I am. So Em will have to take that part.
That's a much more Ida description of yourself. I am what I am. More on brand for you. I am what I am, guys. Yep, I am. Who knows these days what I am? I think maybe
You're
we'll talk
everything.
about
You're everything, which is
that.
beautiful.
It might be my problem, actually. That might be my problem. I'm doing everything. No, I'm enjoying my life right now, guys.
Say about that. I have something to say about that. So I think,
really?
yeah, I think I have. Yeah, I didn't even know I'd share this, but I've been doing some research, and I think I'll share something about that. But yeah, I might as well get into it, eh? Because I did say there's something that I wanted to talk about, and I guess based off of our conversation last week. Oh, wait, when did I put out my newsletter? Was it before our conversation last week or after our conversation?
After.
Oh, okay, great. Well, clearly there was an inspiration there, because I think after it, I was just kind of like, I really just want to do things my way. And I know that sounds so cliche, especially if you've been listening to this podcast. And what that looks like for me, and like kind of just dropping all the if, buts, and maybes, and just do it however, it felt good for me. So I think something that I had started doing was kind of like, cultivating what I call an inspirational village around me, in terms of like the kind of people that I kind of see, which I've shared quite a bit, like P the Fairy. There are a few others now. I've got 10 people in my inspirational village. And if you want to check that out, you might just have to read my first newsletter, because it's all in there. And oh, look at me getting good at promoting.
Hey,
that's the beauty of it. When you love what it is that you've done, you just kind of talk about it, which is something that Em says quite a bit. And so that process, I guess, like continuing to watch, the people in my inspirational village and their way, and just the success that comes with it, just kind of inspired me to think, okay, Ida, like, what would you want to do? And I think this is a question we kind of asked ourselves last week. Was it last week where we're like, maybe it was a week before, where we were like, if we were to do this, how would we want to do it? And I think we were kind of talking about the fact that I wouldn't be doing it this way. Like, I would want to be doing it a different way, where I'd want us to be recording this podcast live, and stuff like that. And we wouldn't have to, edit it and stuff like that. So I kind of just took a step back to reflect again on, okay, Ida, because there's just no quitting on this journey for me. There's no option that's like, okay, give up. That option is not available. So if that option is not available, how do we then look at other ways? And so One way was I've been meaning to write for a long time, just write whatever that comes up. And I think it was last weekend where, you know, we kind of established that, like, oh, I think it was after we recorded the podcast where we're like, how about I just write, and then the people who are going to read it will get it? Because sometimes I'm like, oh, what if they don't get it? But it's like, trust that, you know, the readership will get it. Like the people it attracts will get it. Where am I going with all of this? So I continue to, you know, I continue on my experiment on, you know, kind of, you know, allow myself to get inspired, get new ideas in terms of how to do my business, or how to do business in a way that doesn't feel icky, that feels pretty good for me. So I happened to come across a new person this week, and you know me and how I get when I find someone, I just binge their content because I'm just fascinated and I just get down the rabbit hole. But something that I catch myself doing quite often is whenever I come across a very successful person who inspired me, I tend to go back to their beginning, like when they started. And this person kept saying, oh, you know, I started 3 years ago. And looking at his content, he's got about, you know, like 800 and something posts, which I found out you're pretty close too. I think you've posted like 600 and something or 800. And I was like, wow, damn. You know, but that was just by the way, because as I was doing that, I tend to just, you know, watch and track people's progress. So I happened to scroll just today to the very first post he posted. And obviously, initially, it was just like everyone starts Instagram for friends and family, you know, and his friends and family were kind of like, you know, cheering him on because he would share his adventures, his, you know, all the things that fascinate him, his design. They'll cheer him on, you know, a lot of likes, a lot of comments. When I say a lot, around 20. And I'm going to put all of this into perspective, like around 26 comments, you know, around like 50 likes. And then I saw that he got to a point where he started to shift into who he is now, 3 years ago. So he starts to post what people, I guess, in his community, because at the time it's probably friends and family, would be like, okay, what the heck? So he starts posting his tweets, you know, which are like self-development based, spirituality, like, you know, just self-improvement, self-development content about the things that he's learning and stuff like that, and sharing that. All of a sudden, 1 like, 0 comment. So he continues to share, no likes, no comments. He continues to share. By the way, now he's at 1 million followers. Okay. So he continues to share. And then he gets to a point where 2 people start to comment. You know, they're like, hey, fire, keep going, you know, 3 likes. And he keeps, and all the while I see that he's refining his content. So initially they were just like tweets, and then he refined it to like just, you know, quotes, like his own quotes, or like the things that he's learned, kind of packaging it in a way that's like an Instagram post on a like 1 page. And, you know, it started to increase from like, you know, 2 to 5 to 10 to 19 to 20. And then it stayed at like 20, 25 for a while. And then he shifts again, you know, to this unique type of posts. And all of a sudden, you know, it starts to grow. Now he has a minimum of 200 and something comment over, you know, 5,000 likes.
Wow.
So for me, it was kind of like, oh my goodness, it was him being consistent for 3 years and him not like wavering, thinking, oh, not to say that he never did, because he shares his story of like, yeah, you will doubt yourself and stuff like that. But even when he doubted, he knew where he was going. And so he continued on that path, even when people didn't get it. Because remember, at the start, his family and friends, like they were so used to what he was posting. But when he switched, they're like, okay, what the heck? Even when it seemed like people didn't get it, he kept going. And now he's at 1 million followers on Instagram, 200 and something K followers on YouTube, Twitter. Like he's just, super successful now. And so for me, that was so fascinating because I was like, wow, that's what the journey is. That's what our journey has been, because there are times where it's like, oh, it looks like it's not working. But I feel like when it looks like it's not working, that's even when you continue more. Because you're literally just about, it's kind of like, when you're in the valley and you're just about to climb the hill and you kind of feel like, oh, I'm tired, I'm just going to stay in the valley. Like instead of being like, I'm tired, I'm going to give up at the valley, like continue to climb, and eventually you get to the top. And so for me, that was like very inspirational for me. But why I said I was going to comment on what you said in terms of you being like, maybe that's a problem of doing everything, is like, that's actually his belief. Like he's like, he doesn't believe, he believes that one should start a personal brand. And with a personal brand, and the whole time he was talking, the person that came to my mind was you. Because I'm like, oh my God, who else is he describing than M? And I see how M is going to be super successful with this, because he's like, when he started, he was just talking about anything and everything. Like he talks about fitness, spirituality. He talks about, self-growth, like just different things. He's like, anything I'm learning, I'm sharing, because this is my personal brand. Like you can't just say it takes one way to get there. No, because in my journey, I need to improve my fitness. I need to improve my self-development. I need to improve my spirituality, my relationship with God, like my general relationships. All of these things are what got me to where I am now. It's not just one thing. So I couldn't possibly be talking about just one thing. And I was like, oh my God, this is what M does. Like her audience don't even know what's coming next. And I think that's the beauty of it, and it's the first time that someone has actually explained a personal brand in a way that I'm like, oh, it clicks. It's almost like the missing piece for me, where it's like, instead of like trying to niche yourself into like, oh, I'm a therapist. And I think I even told you, like, really and truly, I want to get to a point where I can openly just claim I'm an artist, period. But I'm not there yet. And I like to get my body there. My mind is there, but my body isn't. And so even if I put it in my bio, I'm going to have this weird disconnect. So I'm not ready, but my mind is aware of it. And so I'm bringing my body I'm creating safety within my body to get to that place, where I'm an artist, and an artist, I get to do whatever I want. But I get to do whatever I want right now. I'm either the artist who happens to talk about, who happens to be a therapist, who happens to be this, that. Like I'm not limited to just one thing, and I shouldn't be. And no human being should ever be limited to just talking about one thing over and over and over and over again. So I rest. But yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about, because I could keep going.
I love it. So cool and important, I think, that we remember that. And that's kind of the way I see it in my career, is like, I can't do anything but what I'm doing. I realized that because I was like, okay, I see all these people succeeding with doing one thing, one strategy, one unique thing, finding your niche. And I tried it, and it wasn't even like, no, fuck this, I'm not going to do that. I couldn't. It felt the same to me as going and having a boss at a minimum wage job. I couldn't. I have to experiment just for myself and my life. So that has to be my business right now, because it has to be, because otherwise it doesn't feel like my business. It doesn't feel fun. And it's so helpful, I think, for me to know that there are very successful people out there who are doing the same thing. And it just sounds easier. It just sounds so much easier. I don't know if maybe it could take longer for some people to do that. Like I'm going on my third year of business, and I have 1,400 people in my audience, right? And I have like a similar amount of posts than this guy, right? So like, I don't know if I'm going to look back on this and say, the way I did this always felt right to me, but it did take longer than some people. Or if I'm just going to say, I did everything exactly the way I should have done it, and all the timing was correct. I can see it either way. But to me, at the end of the day, it's just always worth it. It's just always worth it. And why would you not? For me, I'm thinking in the long run, it's a smart business move. Why would you not make your business capable of shifting and changing with what you're interested in? Why would you box yourself in with like, hey, I'm only gonna coach on this diet forever and this is the only way? Then if you have to change out, it's this whole thing and everyone's hating and you have to kind of get over that hump. We all have seen it. Like anyone who's looking into this stuff have seen people who have been so hardcore with one thing and then they evolve out. And of course, you have people like Wim Hof, who he's doing breath work. I don't know if he's doing anything else at this point, but I don't think he is. I think he's still just doing breath work, Wim Hof method breath work. And that's all he's been doing this whole time. Or like Dr. Perry from Stop Chasing Pain, he does like chiropractic work. That's what he does. And that's what he's been doing. And he's on it. So I think for some people, it might feel perfectly correct for them to just do one thing and they don't give a fuck what's going to happen in the future. But for those of us like Ida and I, we're both like you say, Ida, try things on. You try things on, you see what you think. We kind of mesh together. We're fascinated with other people's philosophies. We kind of try that on, mesh it together with our lives. See how it's the process. It's more about the self-development process for us, rather than one specific tool to use. It's more like the philosophy of life to us.
Definitely.
So why would it feels so freeing to me to be able to make all sorts of changes in my business? Now I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to do this. I'm actually thinking I might want to go back to health coaching a little bit.
Why not? And why not? Exactly. It wouldn't be a surprise because it's something that you talk about. So it's not going to shock people. And that's what he was saying. It's like, because it's something you talk about, if you start saying, oh, I'm going to do that, it's not a shocker because people know, oh, yeah, she talks about that, then to come out of the blue and just be like, oh, okay, I'm going to this or that, There's something you said that it's like, it takes longer. And he does say the same. Yes, it is going to take longer, but longer is good because longer has soul. Because you can start a business that's just like, oh, let's just sell like a planner, and you could sell like thousands, millions of it, but it doesn't have soul. Eventually it's going to die out. But he's like, longer has soul and it's good to kind of, have soul. But I guess the difference between us and him, is like 3 years ago, he decided, you know what? Yeah. I'm going to just talk about whatever I want, and he stuck with it. Whereas I feel like for us, we kind of got sucked into, okay, let's try this. Oh no, it doesn't work. Let's try it. Oh my god. And so that's why we haven't seen like a forward. But I feel like right now, you're at a place where you're cemented. You're like, no, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing whatever I want. And you're starting to see that trajectory, you're starting to see that rise. And I kind of feel like it's a matter of just deciding this is what it is and just sticking with it. So I think that's the difference between his 3 years and our 3 years. He stuck to he decided 3 years ago, I'm going to talk about whatever I'm learning. And that's all I'm going to talk about. Whether people care about it or not, this is what I'm going to talk about. And he did. I think another aspect that I kind of wanted to bring up is how hard he worked. But it's not hard work as in he's killing himself all day. He has a 4-hour day for the last 3 years. So 3 years ago, he also decided, I'm only going to work 4 hours a day, period. Mm. So he decided all of this 3 years ago, and he did that. So he's like, only 4 hours. I put in the things that I need to do. I'm like, okay, cool. I need to do this, that. 4 hours done. Now I get to go enjoy my life. I'm back. 4 hours done. So that's been his process, where I kind of feel like, well, if I'm being honest with myself, like I don't have a particular process, which is fine. I don't think having the process is the problem for me because I'm very good at taking action. I think for me, it's been what's the right way. That's one thing I've been stuck with where I'm like, oh my God, I tried this. It doesn't work. Okay, I try that, doesn't work. Okay, I try that. And then it's like, oh, but if I find my groove, that's going to be like right now, if I decide, you know what, I'm going to work 2 hours a day and this is what my 2 hours a day will entail, boom, done, you know? So I kind of feel like that aspect of he took, in order for him to get there, it wasn't just about deciding I'm going to do whatever I want. It was, yes, deciding I'm going to do whatever I want, being very clear on, but this is what I want. I want to do whatever I want, but this is what I want. So it's kind of like he was very clear. I want a 4-hour work week. I want this. I want that. I want that. Now I get to act on that, you know, instead of like kind of saying I'm going to do whatever I want because I'm in the same field. I'm going to do whatever I want, but we're not putting perimeters around, not perimeters as in barriers, but kind of being very clear. What does whatever I want mean to me? You know, and then continuing to repeat that over and over, like continuing to repeat that. I think that's a piece that right now, okay, fine, I've decided, fine, I'm going to do whatever I want, but figuring out what that means for me and then continuing that. Does that mean I have a 4-hour work day? Is that what whatever I want looks like? Because I do have to have a work day, whether I like it or not, you know, but then what I get to do is fun, you know? So how do I kind of want that to look like for me, you know? So that, yeah, it feels good for me and no one can kind of be like, well, you're not successful because I've already defined that for myself. That's what it looks like for me, you know? So I personally feel like that's a piece that, you know, I'm navigating now.
Cool. It's so interesting to think about the topic that we're getting into right now.
Right.
Because I think the baseline philosophy is something that seems consistent in all of our journeys, me, you, and this guy. We have found what works for us, or we're putting an intention on doing things in a way that works for us. And everybody says that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it seems like both you and I, kind of like you said a little bit earlier, have had to go through moments of, ooh, this person's process feels really good for me, so I'm going to do that for a while. Nope, that actually isn't for me. Okay, this person's process sounds really amazing, so I'm going to do that for a while. Nope, that isn't for me. Okay, I'm just going to do nothing for a while.
I know.
Okay, that's feeling stagnant. You know, like we've been through all these phases. And at the same time, it's easy for us to say, yo, this is like not the way that it should be happening, or this feels like all over the place, or this like a way too long windy route, or why didn't I just get it from the first place? But we had to see the evidence that that stuff wasn't going to work. We had to explore. In the moment when I was following these other coaches that told me like, this is the way to do things, that's the way to do things, I was like, this genuinely feels so good for me. I wasn't even trying. I mean, of course there were coaches where I was like, this doesn't feel good for me, but I'm going to try to force it. But there were coaches like Amanda Francis. I was like, the way she does things, I love it. This sounds good for me. Like it genuinely felt good for me in the moment. We tried it. It started to not feel good for me. So everything's perfect. You know, I'm starting to realize, and it's so annoying when you're not in that place in your life where things feel great and exciting and you're not seeing evidence that it's working, as you say, where you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Everything's perfect. Things feel horrible right now. Like things feel terrible. Things feel not right now. So don't try to tell me that everything's perfect. Man, I was there for like 2 years straight, 3 years straight. So I totally get that. But just trust, follow, you know, to me, it was like, I had to follow all of these things. And even if I felt like it wasn't right, that thing that I was following wasn't correct for me in the end, it was still necessary that I tried it out. It was still necessary. There was no better way to do it than I did it. And I'm just learning that more and more. Like, man, I just feel like I gathered so much wisdom doing things the crazy way and switching my career around so many times in one way or another, and talking about this topic and this topic and talking shit about people sometimes, and like talking shit about the coaching industry. It's all helped me learn so much, and if I just tried to stick to one way this whole time, I wouldn't know shit. So I'm just realizing, kind of building off of what you were saying, with like, well, this guy has been sure about what he wanted for years. We haven't been sure about what we wanted for years, but we're like getting there currently right now. Building on top of that, it's like, and the fact that we weren't sure about what we wanted to do for a couple of years, I believe was meant to be. It was supposed to be there.
Exactly. It's a whole concept of everything is working out for our good, period. It might not seem like it, but it's all working out for our good. But yeah, it's just very interesting. But I kind of feel like you're there. When I say you're there, I kind of feel like now you have a groove. Like, I kind of feel like you're past the figuring out. I kind of feel like now you have your groove and you're kind of like, I just need to be consistent with this groove. Right?
That's what it's feeling like. I think there's lessons at every level. So there's lessons at every stage of my life. So there's still plenty that I need to learn. But as far as creating a group online and creating following with what I'm doing and people's eyes on me, dude, honestly, saying this out loud now, I don't even know if I feel like it's a groove now. It's just like, yeah, all that shit that I've been building for the past 3 years is finally starting to pay off. That's more what it feels like. And honestly, I gotta say, I think the groove is not quitting. Going back to what we've been talking about the past couple episodes, I don't even think yes, it's more me allowing myself to do things on my time, accepting that right now, like, I'm single. I don't have a lot of other stuff going on besides my career, and I kind of like it that way right now. I don't have kids yet, so I'm accepting that I'm going to be on stories all day until I have to not be on stories, and not make myself feel weird about that, not make myself feel like I'm wasting time, trusting that I'm building something with that. And look, I built something with that. Also, kind of pushing myself a little bit to post on the feed, because that is still impactful, I noticed. And I have right now in a place where it's important for me to post on the feed too, because it reaches new people in interesting ways.
Yeah.
And then the podcast. And so I guess, yes, I'm getting more confident. Yes, I'm truly allowing myself to do the weird stuff that feels right to me, not really being on the internet too much in the morning, being on the internet late, not doing what I should do. Yes, all of that. But really, honestly, looking back, it's like the groove is more just, I feel like I'm in the groove now because I can see shit paying off finally. That's why I feel like I'm in it.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I feel like once you actually make the decision that this is what it's going to be, it starts being that. Because it's like you're no longer in a frame of reference of, or you're no longer in a space where you're like, oh, I'm still figuring it out. You're like, no, this is it. And this is how it's going to be. You've decided.
Yeah.
And it has to work out. And I feel like that's when, evidence start to show up to show you that it's working, because you're no longer like, wavering. You're like, this is what it gets to be, and this is what it is. Now the universe should sort it out, because it's like, I've done my part. Now you get to do your part, Whereas I kind of feel like it's a bit confusing when it's like blue, black, orange, gray, blue. Then, the universe is kind of like, and when I use the universe, I'm aware, because there's a part of me that's kind of like, do you mean God? But I think when I say the universe, I'm kind of saying everything God is using to conspire to bring your, dream to life. Because it's not, I don't feel like God is personally coming down and being like, if God is everything, God is using people, using content, using someone's,
Oh no. Did we lose Ida?
starts to happen,
Oh,
because
there
all of
she
a
is.
sudden we're like, what was that?
You froze for a second.
Oh, yeah. I was saying, because all of a sudden it's like, you know what? It's blue. That's it. We're going with blue. And then then God is like, okay, cool. She's decided it's blue. Come on, show her everything blue. Everything blue. Give it to her. Everything that's blue, give it to her. Whereas if it's like red, blue, green, white, red, then it's like, okay, give her green. No, give her give her, it's confusing. So that's what I kind of feel like. But yeah, it's all part of like the journey and part of like figuring it out, which is interesting, which is so interesting.
Yeah, it's funny because I kind of wanted to say, I honestly don't know if I said 2 years ago, it's blue. I don't know if I would have felt like I was in a groove after that. Like, when I hear these things about this is the factor that makes you successful, when I've heard that along and we know how we feel about that now, right? Of course, there's so many factors. There's not always like one answer and all that. But in the past, when I've heard things like, oh, that was really the moment, and in this example, when you said it's blue, that was really the moment when things take off for you. I used to think like, okay, then I'll decide it's blue now, so then I can do it and I'll be successful now. And but here's the thing, one part of me is saying there's no way I could have cut down my journey. Like, there's no way. I was just and made my journey to success faster. There's no way. Like, I needed to know all those skills that I gained from saying, oh, it's blue, now it's red, now it's this. But also at the same time, I'm not sure because it didn't happen. I didn't say it's blue 2 years ago. I didn't. So I don't know. I just think it's interesting. I was about to say, well, I think it's really like whenever you're ready for it, it'll come. But at the same time, I don't know, because we see people blow up a lot faster and they did decide. So I just think that's an interesting.
Yeah. Other people that I've kind of come across who seem to have blown up faster, when I do hear their story, it's because they knew what they wanted from the get-go. If it was whatever I want, it was whatever I want. You look at Kanye West. He knew from the beginning. Like, I think I shared this the last time, but it fascinates me all the time where it's like, he gets to be like, I'm going to marry that girl. He hasn't even spoken to that girl before. But it's like, he always decided. He was always like, this is what it's going to be, period. And it was, so I feel like getting to the point where we're like, this is what it's going to be. Because I kind of feel like right now, you've decided this is what I get to do, whatever I want, period. And so now you get to do whatever you want. And it's actually happening. I think I still kind of feel like I'm still like, I've decided, but mine isn't I'm going to do whatever. I think I've decided to like just say yes to whatever my intuition says. So if my intuition is like, we're writing a newsletter, yep, call that person, yep. Like, I'm not second guessing myself anymore. I'm just doing anything and everything. So for that, I'm 100% sure. Like, I don't care how people feel about it, what people think. Because before I'd be like, oh, that's weird. Even if I do it and nothing comes of it, I just know that I'm just going to keep saying yes until it clicks, And so that's the decision that I've made. I'm no longer second guessing. It's a yes. Yep, let's go. Yep, this is what we're doing. Cool. Yep. But I've decided that it's not going to be someone else's way. It's only going to be what my intuition is saying, let's do, So I think that's what's doing it for me. That's the decision I needed to make. Because for a long time, I'll go against my intuition. I'm like, yeah, but, that's not how it works, though. But right now, I'm like, whether that's how it works or not, this is what we're doing. So let's just do that, you know?
Yeah. I was going to ask how this concept reflects in your career right now. And I think you're right with how you're describing this with Kanye and with the kind of common denominator. I could see that being totally true. When you can get to the place where you authentically can decide, not decide from the outside, quote unquote,
Exactly.
decide, and then in the back of your head, you're like, oh no, maybe this, maybe this, maybe this, where you can like fully and comfortably decide that that's how things are going to be. So that takes people all different periods of time to get to. It sure took me all this time. I'm just now, like just this year, really, you know, maybe in the last 6 months, getting to a place where I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I cannot live comfortably unless I'm doing this. So it has to happen. You know? But can you talk more about how this theory is living through your life right now and like your plans for your business?
Yeah, so I think for me right now, it's about like big picture. So, you know, yes, I happen to be a therapist, but I don't want being a therapist to kind of limit me. Eventually, I want to get to a place where in my bio says Ida, the philosopher, artist. Boom. Like the things that I wanna, but as I said, I have to get my body to get there. So I think for me, it's about, you know, the bigger picture, which for me is, you know, moving towards a more heart-centered humanity, you know? And I feel like in order for us to move towards that, we all need to be financially free. Really, we all need to be like fully expressed and financially free. And so I feel like I'm going to go back and listen to this because some of what I'm saying, I'm hearing now. Like I've been trying to find a way to write it down, but it wasn't coming this way.
Cool.
You know, and so a question that I was asked this week was, you know, what is a book that has changed your life? Because that's kind of like, it's tied to your purpose, so to speak, and purpose just being like an inner pull, who you are, right? So if you read something or a book that resonates so much so that it transforms your life, it's life-changing, it's because there's something in there that your soul's like, boom, this is it, right? And for me, that book is like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. For me, it's the best gift I've ever received. And so when I was asked that question, it was kind of like, okay, so because the question was to help me kind of understand the problem that I want to solve in the world. Okay. And so from the perspective of how did this book change your life? You know, what book has changed your life? And so I was looking at it as Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I'm like, but it's a book on financial literacy. I don't want to teach people about finance. So why was that book the life-changing book for me? And so it was almost like, you know, I could have easily been like, no, it doesn't apply because I don't want to be a financial. But when I really took my time to kind of distill and dig deeper, it was the first book that showed me possibility. And, you know, I talk about possibilities a lot. It was the first book that was kind of like, showed me that there's another way, because for a long time, I only thought there was one way. Like I didn't even know that, you know, I could invest my money and that my money could be working for me. And like the ideas in the book, it's like, it was so foreign to me. It hadn't even crossed my path. And so me reading that, it was like, my soul was like, boom, now you know, there's always another way. There's another way. It doesn't have to be this way. And I think that's why it was a life-changing book for me, because from me having that life-changing moment, that shifted something within me. And because something within me shifted, I started to now attract information, people, experiences that affirmed that to me, that there was another way, and that ushered me into my spiritual awakening. So that book was really like the door to all these incredible things that were gonna, happen. Because Ida, before that book, yes, I was wise, but I was not this Ida right now before that book. Like, for me, life was one way. Life was like very religious, very like, oh, I need to just relax and God does it. I just need to pray and God, God is the one who's going to fix all my problems. That was kind of like my perspective, but I didn't have this other perspective where it's like, no, Ida, you do your part and God takes care of the rest. Where it's like, you've got responsibility too. Like, you get to create your life. You co-create your life with God. That's the other way. It's not the way that you've been brought up to think that, only God is doing the work and you just got to pray and depend on God for everything, And so, yeah. And so that's kind of like, so it was kind of like, okay, that book that changed your life is basically the problem that you want to solve in your life. Hence, the problem you want to solve in other people's lives, which really and truly, when I think about it, the problem that we keep talking about and the problem that I want to solve is that there's another way, and that other way has to do with the fact that you need to recognize that you have the power. You actually have the power within you to change your life. Like, you don't need to sit there and wait for someone to come and do it for you. You can, So I think for me, that's how it's going to be shown in my business. Like, for a long time, I've known that everything I'm doing is gearing towards, the expansion of a heart-centered humanity. Because for me, I really envision a time where we're all really heart-centered, like we genuinely care about each other. We genuinely, like, we're not hurting each other and stuff like that. That's my ideal world. And I kind of see that being possible. But if that's going to be possible, we need to be financially literate, because I feel like most of our problems, are because we just don't have the resources. We're still living in survival mode. And if you're living in survival mode, you can't really show love. You can't really be fully expressed. You can't self-actualize, because you're still thinking about your basic needs. You're still thinking about having a hot shower that's coming from the, from the shower, instead of having to boil it. Like, you're still thinking about where your next meal is going to come. You're not going to be concerned about love. You don't care. Like, you're already frustrated with yourself. You can't love yourself in order to love someone else. So yeah, I kind of feel like that's what the bigger picture kind of is for me. And so, yeah, now, like, filtering everything through that, bigger picture is kind of like where I am, where I've always been. But I feel like, just as you said, it's like puzzle pieces. And I feel like how my life has been and my business journey has to be that way. Like, there was never a time, maybe in another, in a parallel universe, there was a time where Ida just started the business and it kicked off. When I think I kind of mentioned when I was young. Oh no.
Oh, no.
It's okay.
So I will get this from, Zoom recording has stopped. YouTube has not stopped. Sorry guys, I have to make more space on my disk. It's like full. I have to move all my podcast episodes somewhere. No, but that's okay. It's still being recorded. So I'm sorry. I know the vibes got interrupted.
Yeah. But it's fine. And so, yeah, so for me, I don't think my life was ever meant to be Ida the therapist, because that would be very easy. Because the first way I started my business, I just launched as a therapist and I got 4 clients straight away. I don't even know where they came from. All of a sudden, I just had 4 clients, and I know that I could have followed in that and just continue to see clients over and over, but that's not it. It's about, getting to the next edge and getting to the next edge and getting to the next edge. But yeah, just as you said, we're exactly where we need to be, even though sometimes it won't seem like it. And it's kind of like, why aren't things working out? but yeah, just believing that they are in their own way, and there are certain lessons that we need to also learn, in terms of like when it comes to business and how it works and stuff like that, and certain skills and whatnot. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yes, so true. I love this. I love what you're doing here because we need it so much. Don't I know it? We both have been faced with this recently of, can I really find financial stability doing things I love? Can I really do that? Or do I have to find financial stability elsewhere and then do what I love full time?
Yeah, I still don't know the answer to that. But yeah, it really breaks my heart whenever I hear someone saying, I'm not making money from the thing I love, and so I need to go back to corporate, when they really don't want to.
I know.
But I guess that's a person's journey. Like for me, I just know I couldn't work in corporate. It's just I couldn't. I think there was an episode where Emma's like, I'll literally die. I'll die. I couldn't. I can't.
I was just about to say that. I would die. Because you guys, I want, well, I do want to go back to what I have a few more questions about your endeavors in the business side. But I want to hammer this home as I always do. You guys, it's not as simple as, like, in the past 2 weeks, I've been full of joy, complete joy, feeling amazing, radiating pure love for my life. I'm doing great right now, okay? But I have the capabilities to get in very dark spaces. And yes, that is part of the self-development journey sometimes, and part of the mental health journey. And sometimes when you uncover a layer and do some really great work, some old shit comes up, and that's where the dark spaces come from. But let me be clear about this. If I am doing a lot of stuff in my life, or if I'm doing stuff in my life that takes a lot of energy that does not light my soul up, I get into a dark place real fast. So I just kind of want everyone to know how serious I'm being when I say that I would die. It could be a metaphorical thing, or I would literally feel like I wouldn't want to live. I don't know, but it's real. Like, it is so real for me I have to, when I say I have to, it's not just I want to. My life depends on doing what I love right now. It just depends on it. And, that has propelled me forward. And I would be curious to ask some of these other folks who did guide for themselves, this is what I'm doing, to see if they have similar experiences where they're like, no, it's not just I decided for myself because it sounds nice. In order to live my life, I have to do this. Whether it be fully living out my life, it's not really metaphorically living, if, all that, or whether it be very literal. It's just, some of us, I think, we're so connected, we're so sensitive to doing what feels right for us, and we're so connected for that, and we know how it feels when we're doing what's right for our soul, that it just kind of can't be any other way. And I'm not saying that my life will always look like this or anything, but I'm just saying that's been my experience over the past year. And I believe that God has made it that way for a reason. So I will stay on track and figure it out. As Ida has been saying, figure out what will work so I can keep doing the most that I can of what I love. I think that's what it took in my case, because otherwise I would have said, fuck it, this is way too hard. I'll just go work for someone else. Bosses love me. I just don't love the bosses, right? Like, I can work for someone else. So it's important. So anyway, I digress. It's important. We need facilitators to show us how to live our lives in this way and provide ourselves with stability. And you said that you're still figuring out all of this too. It's an endeavor for you. But right now, what do you see? How do you see that being reflected through your business? Like, if you like the whole magic wand scenario, if you had a magic wand in your business right now, how would this information of how to create stability in order to become heart-centered, how would that filter through your business?
So for me right now, just as you asked me that question, another person came into my, you know, sphere, this rupee core.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I just happened to bump into her, and I think this is the beauty of when you decide, then you start to see what's possible for me. So she is a poet who decided to do things differently, self-published, and now she travels around the world to like do a tour where she just says her poems. How incredible is that? Like for me, long term, that's what I'm doing. I'm traveling the world, and you know, I have this following where I get to travel and I just get to share my journey and my thoughts and all of that. I don't know how that's gonna happen, but that's what I see. So like, just as I said, it's a mixture of like Peter Ferry, from the perspective of, come to think of it right now, I even think about it and I'm like, do I even want group coaching? I don't know. I don't think so. I think most of my things I want to be like in person, but who knows? I think I still love one-on-one work, but for now, I'll say like a mesh between Rupee and P the Fairy. That's what I kind of see, where it's like I get to go on tours. I get to have like this assistant who's like, hey, you're sold out here, you're going here, you're going there, you're going there, like that. To me, that would just be the best. But obviously, I need to take steps to get there. But that's kind of where I see where like in-person retreats and workshops and, just to get people closer to that, to their heart, that's like what would really fulfill me. So I know I haven't fully answered your question, but that's the image I kind of get.
Cool.
But the funny thing is nothing is different. It's always been what I want to do. I think right now I'm allowing myself to write, and I don't even know what's going to come through. It's funny because I started writing a piece. I actually started writing it beginning of this month, but I didn't know where the piece was taking me. And anything I think there was even a time we were doing a recording and I said, no, don't share your mind, like don't share your perspective with me because I don't want to dilute what wants to come through. So yeah, just allowing these things to come through as and when. And so when I get to a place where the writing, it's not getting anywhere, I'm not trying to force something. Like I just leave it and I'm like, oh, it'll come to me. I was in the shower and another thought came and I'm like, oh, okay, I see. Okay, we could this is where we're going with it. Okay, great. Just allowing that to happen and just sharing it with, my email list. And it's interesting because even before I started, I told myself, I said, Ida, people are going to unsubscribe from your email list. Prepare for that because they haven't met this Ida before. And so the people who don't get it will leave, and that's okay, and just prepare myself. But even though it's okay, it doesn't mean you still don't get hurt or you still don't feel, because it's like every time I go and I'm like, oh, I posted something, people left, I feel it because I'm like, oh, but I'm aware that that's meant to happen. We're meant to weed out the ones who don't belong, and that's okay. And even in the welcome thing, I put, feel free to unsubscribe if you wanted to, and that's okay. But yeah, that's where I'm at. That is where I'm at. But also I think another thing is recognizing that for me, I'm a very seasonal person, and being able to put that into my work as well. Like I'm not going to be on 24/7. Like I think it's natural for me to be on for 2 months and then step back for 1 month. But the funny thing is when I step back from social media, I'm still working in the background. I'm still like researching. I'm still like, and then I come back. Yeah, I want that to be like a natural cycle. And, that's my consistency and honoring that. Yeah, I'm not going to show up if I don't feel like it,
Mm-hmm.
And I know people always say, you need to show up even when you don't feel like it. I think we know. And I think there was a time, and me and you were having a general conversation where we're like, we know what, when something doesn't feel good, and when we're like just being, what's the word, that there was a word in my mind, but it went like cop out. We know when it's a cop out, and when it actually, we're like, no, it doesn't feel good. So I really know that. And so I know when it's like, you know, it's a cop out, and I know when it's like, no, Ida, like it's not time, just, you know, chill, which is my definition for procrastination, waiting for the right time. So it's like, just chill, wait for the right time, move, then I'll move. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Cool. I think this is so inspiring. Like I think for the new, for anyone, for anyone who's doing a project. By the way, we're getting likes on YouTube and people are watching right now. So hi everybody, and
exciting.
thank you for watching. I really appreciate that. If you're seeing this, we appreciate you guys, and we know we've been talking about it. We've been seeing you guys listening on the podcast platforms too, and all that. So thank you for watching and listening. I find that this will be very inspiring for people to hear you say that, because there are times in our lives where we kind of need people that we look up to give us permission. And of course, we always say, you know, you shouldn't need validation for whatever. We need connection and we need inspiration. There have been times in my career where I've needed someone to validate me, or I needed someone to say, you know what, do this. It's okay to do this. And I think you're going to provide a lot of people with that, saying what you said there. And would like to highlight this point that I've been thinking about lately. It's kind of the same idea as experimenting or being on social media for a couple months, then going off, then being on again. Kind of this whole vibe of on, off things, ways of doing things that isn't necessarily looking consistent in quotes from the outside, but kind of has its own consistency. It's like the consistency is the non-consistency, right? The organization is the disorganization kind of thing. I was at a breathwork class a couple of months ago, and the teacher said it's really good for our nervous system to kind of go up and touch something and then back away, go up and touch something and back away. Ida might know this being a psychotherapist, I don't know. But the idea of, you know, in these breathwork sessions, the idea is to express emotions you've been never able to express or felt safe to express, to do some trauma, letting your body do the trauma healing work. So you might get into a space where the emotions feel really heavy. She was saying it's okay to back away, because it's actually really good for your nervous system to go towards the tough stuff, back away, go towards back away. Isn't it interesting that we found success trying different things? Here I go with the physical health. Then we backed away from the physical health. We did the physical health again last year with the GAPS diet and the farming industry. We backed away from physical health, going out to eat this whole at the end of 2022, beginning of 2023. Now we're back in the health world, and I feel just so comfortable in it, you know. And I'm not saying there's not a part of me that's saying, oh, eventually Ida's going to be posting to Instagram nonstop 24/7. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying this idea of ebbing and flowing and not just being on all the time and forcing yourself to be on is so natural and even healthy for us. And I keep seeing that with what other people are doing too. And I keep seeing that pattern again and again. I'm just like, it's good, it's healthy, but we have a tendency to be like, no, I'm not doing this one thing nonstop all the time. I must be fucking up somehow. And it's just not true. I think we know best. A lot of the times we know best, even if it seems like we fucked up in the moment.
110%. The funny thing is, I've actually heard successful people, and when I say successful people, I really mean like the people who have gone before us, really. Like the people who seem to be where we kind of want to be. And they'll be like, oh, you've got to be on for a period of time. And then when you build the audience and they trust you, then you get to relax. But I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I don't want to do that. No, like, I don't want to be on or not. No, because at the end of the day, we're human beings and we need to recognize that. Like, just like the seasons, we too, do have this ebb and flow that we need to honor. There's like this rhythm. And for me, you beautifully said, like, for me, consistency, it's really a pattern. For me, consistency is not doing something every day, but it's forming a pattern, one that, helps you to, it becomes like a guiding principle for your next step. So if I'm looking at it as a pattern, and my pattern has been, I'm on for 2 months, off for 1 month, on for 2 months, on for 1 month, that's my consistency. And that's okay. And being okay with that. So I think for me right now, what I'm trying to do is to kind of bring the topic up in my audience. I think that's something that I haven't done. And so I think because we live in a society that says consistency is like on, I think sometimes the people in the audience, and I'm totally assuming, because this could be my own shit, sometimes the people in the audience could feel like, oh, this person is not consistent. I can't follow them if I'm wanting to be consistent. No, that's not the person for me. But really and truly, that person is actually giving you permission to be a human being, giving you permission to be, because no one is meant to be on. And I feel like we're headed into a time where we're not all going to be on. It's not sustainable. It just isn't. I really envision a world where we're not on every time. Like maybe it's a 2-hour work day, or like a, like if I was doing podcasting full time, like I envision a life where it's like, okay, I do my tours, for like 3 months, and then I just like rest for like 6, and then I do podcast recordings every Thursday with live. Maybe there's a live audience there. Like that's kind of what I see, where it's like it's part of my life. It's not my whole life, but it's part of my life. Like I get to spend time with my family, and then I get to leave them and be like, okay, mom is on a tour, so mom will be back. I do my tour, and they know that that's my time away from them, and that's okay. They know that this 1 month mom is on a tour, that's okay. And then when I finish the tour, I come back to my family, and my audience know that, okay, these 6 months she's with her family, and it's okay. Just kind of normalizing that. And so I kind of feel like that's something that I would start talking about a bit too, in my audience, maybe in the long form content, where it's like more like my writing, my newsletter, and then maybe kind of talking about it on stories or whatever, because I feel like we do need that role model, or we do need that person who's talking about the fact that consistency isn't being on all the time. It's not sustainable. I'm sorry, whoever said it was, it's not. And we shouldn't continue to live like that, because really brings about like a lot of health issues coming from a person who did night shift for 10 years straight, not having a regular sleep pattern. Like, I think I'm having the repercussions now that I'm actually like stabilized. Now my body's like, okay, here you go. One thing after the other, after the other, after the other. And so, well, maybe that, look, did I just make a connection? You smiled, and I was like, yeah, I think I just made a connection there. Because, sometimes when you're going through something, you're like, why? But I think this is it. Like kind of just what I'm talking about, where I'm like consistency, like sharing that with my audience, that this is what happens sometimes if you're on for 10 years straight doing something, and it seems like your body can take it. But when you actually get to a point where you slow down, that's when your body's like, okay, now it's like, this is where I am. I no longer have the strength. It's almost like you need to kind of start from scratch and rebuild and whatnot. But yeah.
Exactly. It's cool to see, man. My battery's dying, so we'll have to close out, and I think it's a perfect spot to close.
Yeah, I felt it was, when we get to that point, we just know we're just like, yeah, we're there. And yeah, I think that was it.
Perfect. Perfect. I think that I loved what we talked about. It's such a refreshing episode and helpful. I think it'll be so helpful. That's what it comes to mind when I think about this episode.
Yeah, it will. It will. The people who need to hear it will hear it, and I hope it inspires them.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, and my darling. Thank you
All
guys
right.
for listening, for tuning in. We appreciate you guys more than you know, because you're helping us get closer to where it is that we want to be. And we hope we're helping you get closer to where it is that you want to be. We love you so much. I get to speak for both I and Em because I know we both love you guys. So until next week.
Until next week, my friends, please like and subscribe us on YouTube, on the podcast platforms if you're into what we're doing here, and share our episodes if that's okay for you. We would love that. We would really appreciate that. You can find us at The Chilling Therapist, at Emily's.Root Awakening on YouTube and Instagram. You can also find us at Delusional Confidence at YouTube and Instagram. Okay, everybody.